Hi everyone, sorry it's been a little while. I was feeling kind of introverted last week and didn't really feel like filming, but I'm back today and I have some books to show you. I've been trying to avoid buying stuff just to do book haul videos because that has really never been my style and that's not really who I want to be. But, I have been kind of bored lately and I have bought a few things, so I thought it would be fun to look at those today. And at the end, after I show you some books, we are also going to take a look at the brand new Stormlight Archive Call to Adventure board game that my husband and I had pre-ordered because we're huge nerds, and that just arrived a couple of days ago. So I will show that to you guys before it takes its place somewhere back there on the shelf. So first of all, I've been building up my collection of Sanderson books lately. It might seem kind of funny that I don't own them all since I'm doing a big Cosmere reread right now, but I read most of them on Kindle when I was in college, and even though I do still have the ebooks on some Amazon account somewhere, I'm also doing the reread along with my husband, and I've also been enjoying reading things physically lately because I've also been reading a lot of ebooks that I get from the library. So we have a copy of Warbreaker, and I think he still has this one up for free online, so if you want to read Warbreaker and don't want to pay for it, you can go find it on Brandon Sanderson's website. But still, I think this is the first time I've owned a copy of it. I also got a copy of The Way of Kings in paperback. This is a really funny one in paperback because it is just so fat. I think the only one of the Stormlight Archive that I owned physically before this was Oathbringer because I was already living with my husband when the book came out, and so I pre-ordered it physically. Before that, I read Way of Kings and Words of Radiance on Kindle, but I am looking forward to rereading it soon, and seeing this really makes me aware of how long this thing is. I can also see why reading this in hardcover might be a little bit easier because I hate breaking the spine on books, and that thing is not gonna stay open by itself. This is a book that I've had around for a little while actually. It was a gift. It is Range by David Epstein. This is actually a book that my father has been trying to get me to read for probably at least a year. He's been very adamant about it. My husband actually listened to it on audiobook and told me all about it, and my dad still sent me a copy because he really wants me to read it. So this is nonfiction. It's about why generalists triumph in a specialized world. Basically, why being somebody that knows a lot of things or is good at a lot of things can be more beneficial than being someone who is just highly specialized on a single skill. So I've heard a lot of good things about this book, actually. I don't know, maybe I'm just having some sort of teenage rebellion here in my very not teens about reading things that my parents are recommending to me. I also have a few things that I got from a discount bookstore. This is the closest I've come lately to just going and shopping for books for absolutely no reason, not looking for anything in particular. Not something I usually do, and it's a little bit addictive, and I hope I actually read all of these things because otherwise I'm just filling up the apartment with books for no reason. But first of all, we have Tooth and Claw by Jo Walton. This book seems to be sort of a Victorian-style novel, except with dragons, so I'm very intrigued by the premise. It's also this cute little hardcover. I think that's really neat. I have read one book by Jo Walton that I absolutely loved, which was Among Others, which is one of the best books about being a reader that I've ever read. Usually those books can fall kind of flat. And then she had another book that was sort of a loose historical retelling of the King Arthur story that I wasn't so much into, but hopefully I will love this. I actually have a lot of respect for her book reviews and other writings about genre. I also got It's All Relative by A.J. Jacobs. This is also nonfiction. I've sort of been craving some nonfiction or just something that's not genre recently. I know that this is a book about his explorations about what it means to be related to people and all of the people we are really distantly related to. I think I heard an interview with him about this where he just tracks down a bunch of people that he's like 8th cousins of, and basically it's an exploration of how we're all interconnected. So I thought that seemed really fun and like it would be a cute and interesting read. It also has a sticker on the front offering $40 off on a DNA test kit. I don't think I'm going to take them up on that, but I thought that was a really hilarious thing to include on a book to try to sell copies. Then also from the discount bookstore, I got a few fantasy books that I had vaguely heard of and vaguely intended to read. I've actually had this one on my to-read list for a while, The Ruin of Kings. I have a really hard time with the word ruin. It always comes out kind of like rune. I don't know what's wrong with my voice or my accent, but I've been working on that for years and it hasn't really improved. This is a debut epic fantasy novel. I don't know too much about it, but I've heard some good things about it, and I am excited to check this one out. I feel like they're kind of channeling the new Song of Ice and Fire covers with this. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but at least, you know, it's better than the old school epic fantasy covers with terrible art where all the people look really weird. Then we have The Lost Queen by Signe Pike. This is also fantasy. I see a lot of comparisons to The Mists of Avalon in here, which is hopefully a good thing. I really liked that book when I was younger. I don't know how I would feel about it now. Yeah, it's apparently already being compared to Outlander and The Mists of Avalon. So yeah, those are two books I have mixed feelings about, to be honest, but still, it seems like an interesting book. It seems like there is some sort of Merlin or King Arthur retelling in here, and I think it's a pretty cool cover as well. Finally, in books, I have The Empire of Gold. This is book 3 in the Daevabad trilogy. If you've been watching my channel, you know I have already read and reviewed this book, but I haven't done a book haul since I got it, so I thought I should throw it in here anyway because it has a really pretty cover. My only complaint about this book is that the cover is really shiny and it's hard to film and photograph, so I'm gonna hold it up and try to get a good shot. My husband is giving me a thumbs up back there, so hopefully he knows what he's talking about. But you can check out my review of this book. I really loved it. I loved the whole series, and I was so happy that book 3 didn't ruin the series for me. If you want to watch the review, I have a spoiler-free section at the beginning, then a section that only spoils books 1 and 2 of the series if you've read those, and then a completely spoilery section at the end. And I also did recently a video explaining the lore and background as kind of an introduction to the Daevabad trilogy. So yeah, I've been totally obsessed with this series, but this was a really satisfying ending and also a very shiny book. So now the last thing I have to show you is not a book, it is the Stormlight Archive game. This is basically a skin of the game Call to Adventure, which we had played once before. This is the Deluxe Edition, which basically just means that there's a cool box that looks like a book. And you can see on the cover we have Kaladin and Zeth. Call to Adventure is a really cool game where basically at the beginning you receive a origin, a motivation, and a destiny card, and then as the game goes along you are basically building your character and your story through acquiring traits and overcoming challenges. It's all based on cards, and then you basically cast runes that are two-sided dice in order to see if you're going to overcome challenges or not. And the really cool thing about this version as opposed to the original is they did a co-op mode, so you can play together with other people in order to try to defeat ODM at the end. We haven't tried out the co-op mode yet, but we need to try it soon. There's also, I think, a one-player version, although to be perfectly honest, I have never played a one-player version of a board game, and I probably never will because I'm stuck in an 800 square foot apartment with my husband right now. So other than the cool box, the other thing that came along with the Deluxe Edition of this game is this art book. They did some really amazing art for the Stormlight Archive. So this is the artist for the game, their interpretation of the characters and the world from the Stormlight Archive, but they did some really beautiful art. Let me find. Hopefully you can see that. The other bonus thing that came in the Deluxe Edition is there are these two, what are these called? Shiny? No, there's a term for this. What?
Is it holographic?
Oh yeah, holographic. Holographic cards that you can replace like existing cards with. There is one of Odium and one of, well, it says Windrunner, but that's gotta be Kaladin. And let me show a regular card in case the shiny ones weren't really visible. Okay, so here is one that's Messenger, and that is clearly art of Tien, Kaladin's brother. So basically, the art for this does contain spoilers if you have read the books, but I think if you haven't read the books, it won't mean anything to you, so there won't be any spoilers. So we've only played against each other so far, but a friend of ours who also pre-ordered the game did a play with someone else against Odium, and apparently they played a level that was too hard somehow, and even though they technically won, they didn't quite manage to defeat Odium and died horribly. So anyway, I'm looking forward to playing this some more, especially since we are both rereading Cosmere stuff right now, but I am going to have to figure out how to get this in my game display back there. I'll probably leave that to my husband because I'm not good at arranging stuff. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed getting to see some of these books and game. And please hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see more videos from me.